Good morning or good afternoon from wherever you're dialing in from today, and thank you for joining us for our Sustainable Urban Forest Coalition Town Hall on Urban Wood Utilization, featuring a policy update from SUFC, an update on iTree, and then insight on the new Urban Wood Utilization Guide from the Unified Wood Economy. We have a packed agenda for you today. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Matt Spitzen. I am the Senior Manager of Community Partnerships at the Arbor Day Foundation, but I'm also the chair of the Sustainable Urban Forest Coalition. So I'm happy to welcome you today on behalf of both organizations. And I'd love for you all to take a moment to introduce yourselves. So please sound off in the chat if you'd like to share your name, location, organization, and your role there. And as you do that, here's a glimpse at our agenda today. I'll continue with some intros and background on the Sustainable Urban Forest Coalition, then hand it off to my friend Joel Pinnell with American Forests, who will give you all a policy update. Then we'll have a few minutes for questions with him. We'll then transition to a quick update on iTree from SUFC Steering Committee member Anna Castillo with the Davy Institute. Then we'll dive into the meat of today's town hall with our friends at the Unified Wood Economy, Jen Judd and Leanna Morissette, who will walk us through their brand new Urban Wood Utilization Guide they created in partnership with CAL FIRE as well as the U.S. Forest Service. So thank you again for being here. For those of you who may not be familiar with the Sustainable Urban Forest Coalition, I thought I'd include a brief background before we really kick off today's town hall. So the Sustainable Urban Forest Coalition, often shortened to SUFC, is the nation's only network of nonprofits, businesses, associations, and other organizations working together to advance sound, effective policy practices and language around urban and community forestry. So we have a broad and growing membership representing leaders from really about every corner that's needed for a healthy and thriving urban forest, with a mission of convening and mobilizing this diverse network to foster thriving communities through healthy urban and community forests. And so we're guided by three principles: to increase tangible support for urban forests on a national and local level, to educate diverse audiences, both from policymakers to the public, about the value and need for healthy urban forests, to, and then to network and leverage resources and knowledge among network organizations. So, in essence, a goal of ours is to help foster consistent and constructive language around urban and community forestry for our broader community. So you may see resources from SUFC like our presidential transition memo that we created last year, as well as our regular policy calls that are open to the public. And we regularly draft and circulate support letters encouraging our friends in Congress to prioritize and support urban and community forestry programs. So if you'd like to learn or engage with us, feel free to visit our website at sufc.org or connect with us on LinkedIn, or you can sign up for our monthly policy calls via the link that I will drop in the chat in one moment. So now I want to share some quick announcements or reminders on things going on in our community that you should be aware of. Then we'll touch on some of the housekeeping items before we really introduce your first speaker and dive into the meat of today's town hall. So the first reminder that I want to put in front of you all is the fiscal year 26 priorities from the Forest Service. So Chief Tom Schultz recently released the Forest Service's fiscal year 26 priorities, really emphasizing a back to basics approach focused on wildfire readiness, active management, and reducing administrative red tape. Leadership within the Urban and Community Forestry Program highlighted this as a must-read for our network to understand where the agency is directing its resources this year. So I hope you can budget some time to review these pillars carefully, really ensuring any upcoming federal project proposals or funding requests align with these specific goals will really be key to success. So then we have the updated USDA general terms and conditions. And so the USDA released these updated terms and conditions. They were effective as of December 31st, 2025. Forest Service leadership also flagged this as a critical update for all grant recipients to understand immediately. So please review these changes carefully. And if your organization has legal counsel, it's strongly encouraged getting their eyes on this document to ensure that your agreements remain fully compliant. And so our last update is all about the Forest Service NOFO that was sent out last month on February 18th. The Forest Service announced up to $95 million in competitive grant funding through its Wood Innovations program for projects that advance innovative wood uses, expand wood-based construction, and grow U.S. wood energy markets and forest product processing capacity. So funding is available through three Forest Service grant programs. You have the Wood Innovations Grant, the Community Wood Grant, and then the Wood Products Infrastructure Assistance Grant programs. And so the application period closes on April 22nd, 2026. I'll put a link for more info on this grant program in the chat. And so we hope that you review that and decide if that opportunity is relevant for your organization. You apply by April 22nd. So just a couple quick housekeeping items. This town hall is being recorded, and so we'll be sending out the recording to all participants later on. And then just letting you know that we have applied for one ISA CEU, and so Heather is going to be putting a link in the chat to submit your name and your ISA code, so that way, if we are approved, we can submit that information on your behalf. Awesome. Thank you, Joel, for this policy update. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your questions in the chat. So we are now going to transition to a nice little quick update on iTree from Anna Castillo, who is the iTree Outreach and Support Specialist with the Davie Institute. So Anna, I will hand it off to you.
Thanks, Matt. And yeah, thank you for letting me have a couple minutes to kind of provide an update on iTree. I know it was, well, I guess I'll start with a refresher of what happened with iTree. So late last year, we found out that there was a change in policy, or rather an interpretation of a policy within the USDA Forest Service that reclassified iTree as IT. And the consequences of that was that it essentially ended the funding agreement between the Davie Tree Expert Company and the Forest Service that funds iTree tools. This funding specifically funds the hosting and the maintenance and the development of the tools, as well as the technical support and the training that I primarily and my team provide to our users. So yeah, without this funding, it is an existential threat to the iTree tools as we know it. And like we said, we found out about this late last year, and the SUFC responded with helping us distribute a survey so that users like you could share how iTree is part of your work out in your field, in the field, and what you're doing. And we're also working on putting together a letter that will, from the steering committee, that will go to the chief of the Forest Service to explain how this change in the policy is affecting tools like iTree and other tools that affect both urban and rural forest management. So for the time being, we are still, we being Davie, are still in partnership with the Forest Service. And we actually do still have some funding from them from a different pot of money that was from the bipartisan infrastructure law to work on development of some tools. So iTree design actually, so we'll see that later out this year. And then we're also working on some other pots of money from ones coming from New York State and for other specific projects. So that is basically what is keeping iTree afloat right now. So we are still live. But again, without this funding, the future of the tools remains a bit uncertain. And but we do still keep working, like I said, with the Forest Service, specifically with the research and development team. That's the Urban FIA program, led by the iTree science lead Corey Bassett. So we still communicate with them. We're still, sharing data, supporting Urban FIA, but without the funding. So again, we have, this problem that we're still working to identify alternative funding. That policy has not changed within the Forest Service. So we're looking for new funding sources and just to think of a new model or to fund the tools so that we can keep them online. And that being said, the tools are still online, and please do keep using them. I know it's been very uncertain, but they are live, and if it's important for us to keep the usage of the tools up so that as we appeal to new funders or find looking to apply for grants and stuff, we can show how important iTree is still in the urban and community forestry world. And if you do use the tools, please use our logos. You can sprinkle them on your presentations, on your reports, and your outreach materials, again, to just increase the visibility of the iTree tools. as we kind of navigate this uncertain time. And, again, I'm keeping it really brief, not a lot of solid news to share, but we will share updates on our website. And I'll link kind of the page where we're sharing those updates as they come. And of course, you can always reach out to us still at info@itreetools.org. If you have any, ideas or specific projects or some, question that you have about how, your project or how changes might affect your work plan. And like I said, we're committed to keep the tools up. If should they ever have to come down, we will let users know as far ahead of time as possible. So, reduce the chaos, because that is, our priority, obviously, is keeping it going for our users. So, like I said, I'll keep it brief.
Thank you, Anna. Appreciate the work that you and your team are doing to keep the iTree tools available for everyone. And thanks for what you're doing. And so we're now going to pivot to the main portion of our town hall, and we are very grateful to be joined by our friends Jen Judd and Leanna Morissette with the Unified Wood Economy, who will take us for a test drive in their brand new Urban Wood Utilization Guide that they created in partnership with CAL FIRE and the U.S. Forest Service. So Jen Judd is the Chief Operating Officer at the Unified Wood Economy, where she brings over 25 years of nonprofit management and capacity building experience. And then Leanna Morissette is the project manager at Unified Wood Economy, where she brings years of consulting experience from across local governments, nonprofits, and startups. So please help me welcome Jen and Leanna from Unified Wood Economy.
Thank you so much, Matt. Hello, everybody. My colleague Jen and I are so excited to discuss to you today what we've spent the last year working on, the Urban Wood Utilization Guide. Yeah, so before I hop into the presentation, throughout the next 10 to 15 minutes, we're just going to give you a brief organization background. Going to talk about the project background, included what funded the development of this guide, as well as the guide itself. Jen is going to walk you through the chunk of that, and then we're going to walk you through real-world applications of both newly established sites, well-established municipal sites, as well as pitch-ready sites that we've been able to work on within the last year or couple of years. Bit of organization background, Unified Wood Economy is a 501c3 that consults on enterprise-driven models to create jobs, capture carbon, and reduce waste within the wood utilization space. Top of that, we divert unwanted urban wood from landfills and low-value uses while building supply chains for upcycled wood products like lumber, biochar, and compost. Our bread and butter is to provide technical support to strengthen local wood reuse and circular economy efforts for both public and private organizations. So as Matt mentioned, this project was funded through a cost share agreement between CAL FIRE and the USDA Forest Service with 2 deliverables. We were tasked with doing a feasibility needs assessment for wood waste solutions for 2 metropolitan areas in California, one of which was just finished last month. It's the city of Stockton, as well as we are now moving forward with phase 2, which is within San Diego in Southern California, and to produce a business case and a pitch deck for those 2 metropolitan areas to invest in wood waste solutions. The second deliverable is the Urban Wood Utilization Guide, which is a municipal-focused urban wood guide that equips municipalities with a cost-saving solution for urban wood waste. Before we hop into the chunk of the guide, just wanted to put a nod to some contributors. Mike Galvin was the primary author on this project, independent consultant. Our team also contributed Jen Judd and Jeff Carroll, as well as Dr. Morgan Grove with decades of urban ecology experience. We also had reviewers, Joe Lennon from the Virginia Department of Forestry. We had Rachel O'Leary, Marco Danda from CAL FIRE, Hannibal Hayes. We had the Arborist City Forester perspective, as well as contributions from Thaddeus Driscoll. Now passing it on to Jen.
Great. Thanks, Leanna. We are going to shoot through this pretty quick so that we've got some time at the end for Q&A. And yeah, that's it. We're gonna make it quick. And we're excited to be able to share with you at the end of my presentation where you can find the guide, etc. So it is out, it has been released, and we're spending the next couple of weeks doing a rollout of that to make sure that it's spread to a wide audience. So what is this guide? It's called a lot of things, but it's a It is a framework for setting up a wood utilization program that could be initiated by a municipality. It could be municipality owned, or it could be private owned, or it could be some combination thereof. So this guide is put together in the process format of an urban forestry master plan structure. So it may seem a little pedantic at times, but it's to be able to fit in that framework, and it can be used as a standalone guide for developing a wood utilization program, or it could be incorporated as the greater portion or a greater part of your urban forestry master plan. It can be used front to back. It can be pulled out, however it seems to make the most sense for individuals' uses. For the purpose of this guide, we defined urban wood as any tree not traditionally harvested for product, right? Ranging from wildland urban interface, WUI, to city centers. It's essentially all unwanted wood. We needed to make it a pretty narrow definition for this purpose. It's divided into 4 primary areas, things that need to be looked at and assessed as you start: your resources, your site where you're collecting, aggregating, and processing the wood, your partnerships, and your funding. For the resource section, it will walk you through how to establish the quality and the quantity of wood in the region that you draw. You know, if that's going to be small city, if it's going to be the entire county, if it's going to be multiple counties. You're going to look at who is creating the wood and where it's currently going. So are you looking at just private sector? Are you looking at public? Are you looking at municipalities who are just looking at parks and recs and street trees? Are you also going to incorporate, pull back and incorporate utility arborists? You know, it just, you have to look at all of these different things and see what is feasible for your program and your interest. And then what has happened to that wood right now? Is it the vast majority of it being chipped and trucked and dumped? Is it being sent to a biomass facility unit? Is it being burned? And that's happening in the Southeast, especially after these extreme weather events. You're having, I was stunned when I learned this, when I started into this field, that they're digging pits, dumping the wood and setting it on fire. So there are lots of opportunities that are regular throughout the year and then are also sporadic. So being able to think about that too. And then finally, you're going to look at, when you're doing that deep dive assessment into your community, you're going to look at what those hurdles are and what those opportunities are. I won't go into details on those right now, but there are many. You're going to look at your site and you're going to say, you're going to be determining what are the most important issues to you. And when you're looking for a location, it needs to be geographically smart. So where's the greatest amount of wood currently being trucked to? Where is it? Where are there large transportation offtakes? So are you near a body of water? Are you near transportation avenues? Are you near railroad lines? How far are your current tree care companies traveling to dispose of their waste? These are all important things. Then you need to look at the real estate options. Obviously, an area like San Diego, it's going to be sky high. But if you're looking at, an area in quasi-rural Arkansas, it's very different. So there are a number of different issues to be grappled with. Partnerships. We all talk about partnerships all the time, but obviously in this case, it's just as important. As you're looking at that supply chain of wood utilization, you're going to have partners all along that circle. There's an example here in this slide of the wide variety of partnerships who are in our team when we approach it, and what we're recommending in the guide as you decide who's in that inner circle, who's in that surrounding circle, and who's in the outside. And that's usually a descending order of importance in terms of who's spending the most time managing the project, seeing it, making it go forward. As I mentioned here in this bullet, you've got private sector, public NGO partners, funders, investors, umbrella organizations. All of those will play a part in the wood utilization program that you're tailoring to your community. And then finally, funding. So obviously getting seed funding for an assessment is key. And it has That we've talked a little bit about funding. Joel mentioned some funding options. It's possible through Wood Innovation grants. It's possible through philanthropic and municipal and state funds at times to be able to get some dollars to get on the ground and be able to figure out and assess and make recommendations. Leanna's going to touch on Stockton and San Diego later, very briefly, to give us a sense of what those first initial stages, those pre-development stages look like. And it's key, as we mentioned here, that you're going to need to get funding not only to get on the ground and make an assessment and get to a business case, but also to make it pitchable, right? And then you're going to need to have a couple of years of funding to be able to roll and run out. You are not going to be self sustaining for probably 1 to 2 years, realistically. And we do talk about pro formas and those financial projections in this guide. We'll touch on that in a moment. This goes all the way from vision to strategic planning, implementation, monitoring, adaptation, and management. Again, following that urban forestry master plan process. Looking at everything through an economic lens, I believe that this will be one of the most important things in this guide. Again, they're going to be organizations or individuals who are well versed in most of what this guide talks about. There's not a lot, not a lot of us across the country, not a lot of entities doing this yet across the country, but we're getting there. And so the critical mass base of knowledge is really growing. But this is something that's very important, especially for those organizations that have already got their feet wet. And so they are going to be able to look at the financial justification of this and be able to tailor a case for whoever they need to have approve it, whether that be elected officials, whether that be philanthropic organizations, or whether that be state or local funders. So I've listed a number of these important key things that will be important to different individuals along the process. We've got, again, some more tools in our appendices are our checklists, pre-planning, planning, post-planning, so that it's a step-by-step process for those who would like to have that. Your economic valuation, your pro forma, and your forecasting. We worked with Quantified Ventures to help flesh this out. And I think they did a very good job of explaining what a pro forma is, why you need to use it, and why it's relevant to this case. And then they go in and give several examples of the data that you would need to pull and provide to be able to project out. I think that's something that's new in this space for wood utilization at this level, especially at scale. And I think it's really important. And then also, too, we're all familiar with Vibrant Cities Lab and others. So there are that crossover with sustainability criteria. Again, for all kinds of ways to shore up your justification for funding. I'm going to jump real quickly to just mention Memphis Urban Wood. Don't have really time to talk about it today, but I think Leanna's going to drop in the chat the website to look at this. It's a pretty rudimentary website, but Memphis Urban Wood has been open and running for a year. UWE and our partners on the ground, The Works, and the largest tree care company, Woodland, are currently co-operating this location. And our goal here is to be about 1 million board feet a year, plus compost and some mulch and firewood. Ultimately, we'd love to bring biochar onto the site. So with that, I'm moving really fast, everyone, so I'm sorry, but I am going to pass it on to Morgan. Dr. Morgan Grove is here with us, and I appreciate you, Morgan, being willing to do that. As we mentioned earlier, he was key to the visualization of this guide, as well as actually helping us get through all of the process and the writing and the thinking of this. And he is also intimately involved with Camp Small. So I thought I'd let him talk about what's happening at Camp Small for a couple of minutes, and the fact that it's the only municipal run facility in the country at the size that it is and for its tenure.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah.
So with Camp Small in Baltimore, it is a completely municipal run city operation. It takes in all the trees from street trees and park management. Given the demand for lumber, it is soon to open up to private arborists for certain species to come in. There's about 9,000 tons of wood that come in every year, and that's a pretty steady supply with logs, branches for firewood, and for wood chips for compost. And I think in terms of the guide, we already know for Camp Small that it's completely self-sufficient in terms of revenue. It covers all of its expenses for machinery and staff and other related costs for its operation. Yet we're not in a position, have not been in a position to be able to say, and I think this is really important in any operation, to be able to say to the mayor, city council, your elected representatives, to be able to say, what is this worth in direct funds? It's not modeled dollars. It's like this is what is the direct and then sort of rippling financial impact that we have for all of the different wood dependent entities, furniture makers, and so on, but also the benefits to community organizations where wood is provided, wood chips are provided, all sorts of things happen. And I think that this guide allows that to happen for the first time ever, where we're able to say to those elected officials, but also the private sector and to NGOs, this is what it's worth. That I think builds even more support for it and perhaps leveraging new resources beyond just saying we're self-sufficient. And I think that that is going to be a really important message that we need to be able to make for wood utilization for our municipalities. And to remind everyone that there are about 19,500 municipalities in the United States. They all have a wood problem. And so we've got to figure out a way to help them do this work and to be able to make a financial case for why not only can it be self-sufficient, but in fact it can generate um, cascading benefits to the entire community. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you very much, Morgan. Leanna, you were going to touch on California.
Yeah, thank you so much, Morgan, and thank you for the transition, Jen. If you could update the slide to show Stockton.
Yes.
So very briefly, we talked you through a newly established upcycling campus, that's Memphis Urban Wood, as well as a well-established municipal program. Stockton is a bit different because it is a multi-collaborative initiative that's reached its pitch point. So it is ready now to be pitched to investors. And this is a primary example, and you can find more information on our website about this specific feasibility study that was completed. But you can see here in this framework here in this image, West Coast Arborist handles all municipal contracts within the city of Stockton. So that's the resource, right, where the input of the wood is coming from. Little Manila Rising is a workforce development corporation that has expressed interest in hosting said a site, a wood upcycling site, so that addresses site and partnerships. And then the Buena Vista Biomass Energy Plant is a new plant that's coming online that's set to take and funnel remaining unwanted wood so that it's not left in open pile burning. So this is just a brief example of something that assumptions that were talked through this project were also included in the Urban Wood Utilization Guide. Yeah, we just wanted to bring it up as it's different from the other projects and it's now reached its pitch point for funding.
Great. Thank you, Leanna.
Yeah. So where can you find the Urban Wood Utilization Guide? If you scan that QR code, it'll bring you to a site where you can download it directly. You can also access it on fire.ca.gov, as well as through the CAL FIRE Resource Hub. And you can also find it on Unified Wood Economy's website under the news and resources. General inquiries about the guide can be sent to team at unifiedwoodeconomy.org, as well as to Jen and I. And then if you're interested in a deeper dive, longer than the 10 to 15 minutes we took today, we are also hosting a co-webinar with CAL FIRE and the USDA Forest Service, where we're going to take an hour deep dive into the Urban Wood Utilization Guide and how not only it addresses needs for municipalities, but also the key stakeholders in those municipalities. Thanks all. Please let us know if you have any questions.
I'll hand it over to you, Matt, or
All right. Thank you, Jen and Leanna. So we just have we have one question so far, just asking, has the Urban Wood Economy Initiative formalized now as Unified Wood Economy?
Yes, we had a name change a little over a year ago, went from urban wood economy to unified wood economy. It just
Perfect.
reflected a number of things, but it reflected our decision to look at wood sourcing in a much wider space. So much like the definition here, wood that is unwanted or isn't traditionally going to market. So it's not as geographically focused as it is looking at where is this wood already going? Can we divert it from a waste cycle? Can we upcycle it to its highest and best use?
Sure. And please continue to put some questions in the chat. I have another one here to kind of get us started while you all put those in the chat there. So, starting a wood utilization program or urban wood campus can be daunting, especially as it may involve expertise outside of arborists, nonprofits, etc. Where's a good place to start?
Who would like to hit that? Morgan, I see you getting ready
Yeah.
to speak, so
Well,
feel free.
yeah, I think that a lot of the expertise already exists in rural wood utilization operations. And so it is to, access, I would start in any state with the land grant schools that you have and wood and people who are involved with wood utilization and in contact with your state forester in terms of what are your operations for um, processing logs and so on. I think that there's some added knowledge that exists out there for producing compost, which is a highly valuable product that where you're taking low value wood material and turning it into a high value thing. But each municipality is already doing wood utilization at the moment, but they're treating it as a negative externality and they're throwing it away, they're burning it, so they already are involved in wood utilization. And the key is to say rather than treating it as an external cost, is to create an internal revenue. And we've been told not to say profit for the government agencies. But I think that there's a lot of capacity out there. And, the one thing that you'll hear is like, well, it's really bad for the sawmills, but, using wood misers and horizontal band saws, it's not dangerous for the operators and it's not terribly expensive when you inevitably hit a nail. So, but I think that every state has existing resources and it's just connecting with them. But urban and community foresters have historically not been trained to think about wood utilization, but the rural foresters have.
Thank you, Dr. Grove. Yeah, that's definitely an interesting way to look at it. Phil asked a question in the chat. Can the utility industry be approached as a potential funder to recycle and put wood to work as an asset versus liability in partnership with municipalities?
So I think that and Jen has been having more conversations with some of the the big utility arborists and West Coast arborists is key, and they handle a lot of the west of the Mississippi, in terms of Arizona, California, Texas. But then is it Lewis?
Lewis Tree.
Lewis Tree who is a major utility entity is looking to get involved with this as well. And so I think that those are huge opportunities for them. And again, they don't want to have wood as a cost. They'd rather figure out a way to um, make more money.
And if you're talking to them, it's dealing in large volumes of low quality, high quantity, low quality. And so what is the solution there? Is biochar an option? Composting, mulching, et cetera. So it may look different if it's part of a wood utilization campus. It might be the only thing you look at a wood utilization campus if you're in rural Pennsylvania. So it's a good question. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah, thanks, Phil.
We might have time for one more question, so feel free to put that in the chat. You're also welcome to unmute and ask the question yourself. Otherwise, I've got one final question at the ready if no one wants to chime in. All right, so we can end with, okay, so if how can you properly vet a partner for urban wood utilization? So what characteristics do you typically look for in a potential partner?
I think I think what that question is getting at, and I'll actually let Leanna answer as well. But if you're looking for organizations to play several different roles, so if you're looking at your workforce partner, it may be an NGO in that community that is already very heavily vested in workforce elements, and so you would talk to them about training and working with maybe your local NGO, urban and community tree planting organization. And so where's the synergy there to be able to develop a workforce to come and be able to help operate a wood utilization campus? The others are who are, looking at the sources, those original four categories that we talked about at the beginning. Who are your sources? Are you going to be partnering? Is it municipal led? Is it going to be is it going to be a utility arborist entity that's going to help lead the charge, or is it going to be small, mid-size, or large tree care companies? Is it going to be a local Davy? Is it going to be a family-run business that's in there? And also, what about the umbrella organization? Do they have a strong chapter, ISA or TCIA chapter, so that you're able to talk to a number of different organizations at the same time to see what the appetite is within that community? And all of those things are related to what are the tipping fees at the dumps? Are the dumps turning wood away? Right? Do you already have a well-established mulching and composting facility in town? What is the what are they bringing in? What are the arborists bringing in terms of hardwood or softwood, et cetera? All of those things are key. Also, one thing we didn't have time to talk about is that offtake market and being able to understand what markets you're feeding into and activating those markets.
Great, thank you, Jen. And if Morgan or Leanne, if you don't have anything to add to that, I think we can just wrap up. But thank you, Morgan, for adding that to the chat. We are 1 minute over, and so we will start to close for today. So I just want to thank you so much to Jen and Leanna for sharing Unified Wood Economy's new Urban Wood Utilization Guide. Thank you, Dr. Grove, for chiming in with your insight and expertise as well. Thank you again to Joel for sharing your policy expertise with SUFC. Thank you, Anna, for updating us on the latest with iTree. This was a jam-packed agenda. Thank you to Heather Doucet for always helping convene us and share relevant and important info, especially through your weekly policy newsletter. Thank you all for being with us here today. I fully believe it's more important for us to stay connected now more than ever. So thank you again for being here. If you're interested in staying in touch, please subscribe to the SUFC policy emails. Heather sends out a great policy newsletter every Monday morning when Congress is in session. Please inquire about membership with the Sustainable Urban Forest Coalition. You can reach Heather at convener at sufc.org. As a reminder, this session was recorded and will be emailed out after. We also applied for an ISA CEU, just another reminder. So Heather will be sending that link to the form here in the chat as well. Yes, so hopefully we will get approved for that and we can send in your ISA info after the fact. Thank you again for joining SUFC's Town Hall, and we look forward to staying engaged with you throughout the year. So thanks for being here.